Centralizing, buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See the shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.TV. And I'm going to be your host for the next hour. And we have a policeman here in Ontario, Canada, who was given a 6-year sentence. Say, Vince. Was given a 6-year sentence for shooting that young fella, 18-year-old guy, on the bus in 2013. It seems like a long time ago. Man, time's flying. And anyways, the policeman today was given his sentence 6 years for attempted murder. Now, it's a really bizarre story because he didn't attempt to kill the kid. He killed the kid. Twice, actually. Let me dig the story up here. And it's really a pathetic story because this cop shows absolutely no, and I mean no, what's the word I'm looking for? Remorse. He shows absolutely zero remorse for what he's done. And so he got sentenced to 6 years. Now they already started the appeal prior to the conviction, or the sentencing rather. But this guy showed absolutely no remorse whatsoever. It just shows you what the legal system's really all about. Okay? You know, as far as the government's concerned, what got killed? A fictional entity. Because the government is a fictional entity. The legal system is a fictional system. The legal system does not recognize any living man or woman. Law recognizes that, but we're not in a lawful system. We're in a legal system. We're in Alice in Wonderland. And so this cop who shot this 18-year-old kid, Sammy Yatin, in 2013, Now, I don't know if the kid was stoned or having a bad time or what his problem was, but, you know, he did a few kind of half-assed stupid things on the bus, certainly nothing worth being killed for. But, you know, they vacated the bus, so the kid was of absolutely no threat to anybody. Apparently, the doors can be locked from the outside, so the kid would have been contained in the bus. He had a small knife. And then we have the militarized police force show up. And the kid's standing in the doorway, and what does the kid want? He even told the bus driver what he wanted. He wanted to talk to his dad. That's what he wanted. He wanted to talk to his dad. Instead, these asses show up, these thugs, the force, those who are there to protect the legal system or protect the government. This one idiot, James Furcello, pulls out his gun and shoots the kid basically point blank 3 times. Hits him in the heart, hits him in the spine. The kid's gone. And then 5 seconds later, or somewhere in there, he fires off 6 more rounds into the kid. Now, he killed him, obviously. The kid was not going to survive from the first 3 shots. But somehow this brave, brave man in his riot gear kind of get up still feels threatened, and he feels it's necessary to hammer this kid with 6 more shots. And then he ends up getting charged or gets convicted of attempted murder, which is ludicrous. But this is fictional, right? It's a fictional system. So obviously he has every right to feel threatened, even though the kid's down and he ain't getting back up again ever. It's all fiction. It's the only way you could possibly get an attempted murder out of a point-blank killing of someone who wasn't really a threat to anybody. 80-year-old woman could have went and defused this situation, which was barely a situation to begin with. But nope, the brave boys in their uniforms who are there to protect the system, and they think they can harm anybody, anywhere, anytime they want because, well, they felt threatened. And I think people are really getting tired of this nonsense. Well, the officer felt threatened. What are you talking about? It was a guy with, not this guy in particular, we hear these stories all the time. Some autistic kid or some kid or middle-aged guy who's got the wherewithal of a 6 or a 10-year-old, might be having a bad day and he got a butter knife in his hand. And I seen one, I think it was around 20 cops surrounded this guy and killed his ass. Well, we felt threatened. Oh, well, if you felt threatened, then it's justifiable. Maybe in a fictional world it's justifiable. In a real world, this is not justifiable. You murdered the guy. And you show absolutely no remorse for what you've done. Obviously, you don't show any remorse because the legal system is amoral. There is no morals in the legal system because it's fictional, and something fictional cannot have any morals to it whatsoever. You ever picked up a moral orange or a moral piece of paper or a moral pen? We live in a fictional world where you, the man or woman, don't exist. Just like a slave is not considered a man or a woman. They're a slave. And you're a slave in a system that was created, this fictional system that was created. And the ones that run this fictional system believe they have the power to do to you whatever it is they wish to do. I mean, I know all kinds of targeted people. And then it gets dirty. Now, I've backed them off, but, they feel they can just run on your ass anytime they want. There's nothing you can do about it. But, I mean, if you look at it, what is legal? Color of. Similar to, like, but not. And what did the so-called government do? They legislated the force. So it's the color of law and the force. And one protects the other. And a lot of people get hurt in this system. And it really, really, really needs to stop. So anyways, they were supposed to see about doing some thing about a bail hearing for this cop that just got convicted today, this morning, I believe, or not convicted, but sentenced. And then around 2:30, they were supposed to start some kind of a bail situation. And that's been put over till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, I know all kinds of people who got a lot more than 8 years or 6 years for a whole lot less than what this guy did. And I'm sure right now they're trying to figure out what are we going to do here. Now, it's a good thing that Sammy, the young man that was shot to death, wasn't black. But right now I'm certain that the system is scratching their heads trying to figure out how they're going to handle this. Do they throw this brother under the bus to save face, the justice system to save face? Or are they going to let this guy out on bail while the appeal's pending? Now, his wife says he's of no threat to anybody. Well, he was certainly a threat to that young man. And the look in this guy's eyes, this guy's a nutcase with a gun. So we'll see tomorrow what happens. They're going to let him out. They're going to put him in jail. They're going to put him under house arrest. What are they going to do with this guy? Because if they nail him for the full 6 years, then that opens up the door for people to start bringing some pretty serious claims against police officers, which would be nice. But then the police officers there are to protect the system. And if the police, who, by the way, are outside the reach of the government, legislated by the government, outside the reach of the government, they police themselves. If they come down too hard on this particular cop, are the other cops going to start to run amok, even worse than they already are? I mean, just the other day in Ottawa, a gentleman who was of limited mental capacity, 37-year-old Somalian, who ought to be in Somalia, not here, but of course we bomb the piss out of all their places so that we can bring them here. Start that multicultural nonsense. But I mean, all this guy wanted to do was go home, and they blocked him at the door to his apartment building and proceeded to kill him, clubbed him to death. Now, this country, the so-called country that I live in, is supposed to be a wonderful country where people care. Not like the United States. No, Canada is a much better place than the United States. You can walk the streets, you can feel safe, and yada, 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 yada. What a freaking joke. What a joke. So anyways, we'll see what happens tomorrow morning I'll keep an eye on this because I'm kind of curious as to what they're going to do with this guy. Here's another cop who was involved in the G20 when they kettled all the kids. And he got found guilty. Let's see what the deal is on this. The G20 kettles cop Fenton appeals conviction. Complaints say Toronto Police Superintendent Mark Fenton's appeal undermines the senior officer's apology last summer, issued the same day. A tribunal hearing officer found him guilty of 2 counts of unlawful arrest, 1 count of discreditable conduct under the Police Services Act. Toronto Police Superintendent Mark Fenton found guilty of misconduct for twice ordering the mass arrest of hundreds during the G20, is appealing his conviction. The move comes 1 month after Fenton, the only senior officer convicted for his actions at the notorious summit, was sentenced to a formal reprimand. Are you ready for this? This happened way back in 2010. Now he's appealing this because he said he apologized, and finding him guilty after the apology undermines his apology. So if you remember the G20s, they happened in Seattle. I think there was one in Philly, wasn't there? Where we have these sound cannons, heavily armed SWAT teams just harassing the general public, beating the snot out of them because they can. So this guy was convicted of twice ordering the mass arrest of hundreds of people who were doing nothing wrong at the G20. Now, what was anybody remember what his sentence was? He was sentenced to, are you ready for this? He was sentenced to a formal reprimand and 30 days lost vacation time. An absurd penalty deemed so light, complainants in the case have launched their own applications to appeal, seeking a tougher sentence. The competing applications mean the search for justice by hundreds caught up in Fenton's so-called kettles, including the hours-long detention at Queen and Spadina during a torrential downpour, is far from over 6 years after the G20. Complainants say Fenton's appeal undermines the senior officer party. Last issued the same day a tribunal hearing found the officer guilty, yada, yada, yada. What's the point of the apology, asked Chevron Akavy, who was kettled at Queen and Spadina. I originally accepted his apology. I officially reject it because of this action. Superintendent Fenton is back to maintaining that he did nothing wrong. Well, of course he didn't do anything wrong. He's a cop. How could a cop do anything wrong? They're there to protect the system. Now, the kicker on the G20 was supposed to be a meeting of 20 heads of government discussing finances. So we never heard dick all about what happened in those G20 meetings. Everywhere there was a G20 meeting, all we saw was cops beating people up and a lot of black ops shit going on. And there was no news about what the G20 was even about. Now, if you go to Makati and look up a group of 20, the bloody thing was created, was founded by Geithner, Timothy frickin' Geithner, and Summers. It's a private company they set up. And the whole idea, as I can see, about the G20 was to come into these cities to see if the governments and the people were subdued enough that they would hand over the reins to these guys who are globalists, who work with the globalists, who work with the International World Bank, all that shit, to do the final takedowns on our so-called countries. That's what the G20s were all about. Is there any fight left in your people? Can we come in here and then set this up and you guys can go out there and beat the shit out of your public? You can mass arrest them. You can beat them. It was a test to see if the nations were subdued enough, if the peoples in the nations were subdued enough to give up their nations to the International Monetary Boys. And you know that's what was going on because the Prime Minister at the time of Canada, the Conservative, Harper, stated very clearly at a media scrum, describing the G20 as this is a loss of national sovereignty. Some people don't like it, but it's just a simple reality. Now, that statement from Harper, the Prime Minister of the country, was never, ever, ever voiced on mainstream media. No. Let's keep looking at the sideshow. Let's keep looking at the sideshow. 6 years later, we're still looking at the frickin' sideshow. As now they're starting to try to bring in the guaranteed basic income. Well, when they're doing that, you know that your nation has already been handed over. You know that all the resources of your nation have been handed over. They used you, the people. They used you, the people, as collateral, surety for the government loans. So we're back in bankruptcy stage again. You can't, the people that they've borrowed all this so-called money, this fictional money, this monopoly money, of which the people are on the hook for, they've driven the debt so high that there's not a hope in hell of any nation ever paying back the debt. And like they did with all these other countries, be it the South American countries, the African countries, where the money men would come in and offer big loans to bring the country into the 20th or 21st century. The only reason they did that was to get their hands on the resources. Then they brought in the dictators, and then the dictators beat the piss out of their people and killed millions and millions of people. Okay, and then you get hyperinflation, and then these countries are bankrupted, and the people can't pay the debts back. What's left? Well, in the West here, all the resources are here. So they bankrupted, they've used up the collateral called people, or persons, I suppose. So that stage is gone now. That's over. Now we're on to the next one, which is all the resources on the planet flow into the hands of the people that turned you into surety for these phony debts. And now that they have their paws on all of the resources on the planet, they're pushing the guaranteed basic income. So all they're putting together is that huge trust. And they control the trust. And they will decide how much water you get, how much food you get, what kind of food, what kind of water, what kind of education, and so on and so forth. What kind of house you live in, where you live. That's the rewilding thing. I mean, the BLM is up to their ass in this thing, trying to run people off the land. That's the whole thing. Run them off the land because that's the new finance tool. Okay, that's the new finance tool. And they want it because you owe the debtor it. You can't pay the debt. The debt, I mean, how stunned do people have to be? I don't know what the debt load is in the United States. It's trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars. Sucking compound interest. And all the manufacturing, all the jobs that actually create wealth are gone. It ain't a debt that's repayable. So people are running around yelling, we're the best country in the world, and singing our anthems and that, which are nothing more than corporate anthems, corporate flag. And we're corporate slaves. They've used up the equity in us, and now they want the resources. It's a pretty sad state of affairs. When a prime minister of a country like Canada can stand at the podium and state this is a loss of national sovereignty, and then turn around and glibly say some people don't like it. But it's a simple reality. Well, the ex-prime minister, the liberal Democrat, depending on which side of the border you're on, at the university states to the student body there, we're all going to have to give up some of our sovereignty in order to make the world work. And the question has to be, work for who? The League of Nations failed after World War I. Why? Simple. The American people at that time still had a sense of history. They understood what they fought for. They fought for freedom. And the idea of joining the League of Nations meant that they, the people that left their homelands to come to America to begin a new life from underneath the foot of tyranny that had been on their back and on their necks for so long, the thought of giving up any sovereignty was not palatable to the people of the United States. So, have another war. And Mandel House said there was going to be another war. The same Mandel House that signed America on the Federal Reserve. And Mandel House pushed like hell for America to sign on the United Nations because he was told, get them to sign. And if they don't sign, and Mandel House even said that within a few years, there's going to be another major war. Well, surprise, surprise. How would he know that? Simple, he was told that. But that gave the public school system enough time to water down the brains of the American people, to begin the bastardization of the idea of the Christian faith, to basically start the genocide of the people and their minds so that they could fire up the next war. And this time they got them to sign on to the United Nations, which was just the bringing forward of the League of Nations and rebranding it. It's the same shit. And over the years, we've seen the decadence increase and increase and increase and increase, and things that were absolutely not acceptable have now become normal. The jobs are gone. Faith is gone. The sovereignty is gone. They're just coming in to clean up now. It's basically cleanup mode. You know, our countries have signed so many treaties, agreements, letters of intent to the United Nations. Well, who the hell's the United Nations? It's not like, you know, we have a war and you know, whoever wins the war gets to basically make the rules. But they're not a country. It was set up by a bunch of criminally minded, globalist, international sons of bitches who are directly responsible for the wars, who are directly responsible for the hundreds of millions dead. You see any remorse coming out of these guys? There's no more remorse coming out of any of those guys as there is on the face of Fusello or whatever his name is, the Toronto cop that killed the 18-year-old kid on the bus. They don't recognize you other than you're either an asset or a liability. Now, as they kick up their robots, as they get these 3D printers working better, guess what they're not going to need? Your labor. Why do you think they're feeding you GMO foods? Why do you think they're vaccinating the hell out of your children? And I don't know how any parent could possibly at this stage in time allow anybody to give a 1-day-old child a vaccination or multiple vaccinations. I mean, you got to have your head so far up your butt not to understand what's going on. Well, the doctor said because of this or that, they need the first vaccination, then I got to bring him in next Tuesday and have another one. And he can't go to school unless his vaccinations are all up to date. So we got to make sure we get those done. And I look back and I think about my forefathers and I think of those people in the United States who refused to sign on to the League of Nations, and I look at where we were and where we are, and I basically just want to puke. We should all be puking mad. We should be so damned angry. We live in the richest nations on the planet. You know, people going to food banks, people living on the street, people living in parks, all kinds of empty houses. People fell into financial trouble when their job disappeared or whatever. Does that make these people bad? No. These are people who have been screwed over. But, you know, according to the legal system, the bank's got to throw your ass out to the curb. What about my children? Well, geez, what are we going to do? You know, we lent you nothing. You signed it, and we're collecting on it. And, I feel bad for your family, but you're going to the curb. Only an amoral system could do that, and that's your legal system. While I'm on the legal system, if I hear anybody else talk about legalizing weed, I want to smack them. I really truly will. If I see somebody on our street downtown and I say, do you think they should legalize weed? He's going to get the palm of my hand in his forehead. I won't punch him in the nose because, might hurt my hand. And besides, I don't really want to hurt anybody, but you got to get their attention somehow. So a nice little palm print, the heel of your hand, poof, in the forehead. Wake up, you stupid son of a bitch. Well, if it was legalized, it'd be better. Better than what? When they made it illegal, they threw your arse in jail. When they make it legal, they still intend to throw your arse in jail. It's about creating a monopoly for the so-called government. The government does nothing. It does two things. It looks for revenue streams from you and also puts you on the hook for all their stupid expenditures. So you lose and you lose. And when you're in jail, somebody's making money off your ass when you're in jail. This whole idea of legalize anything is saying, oh, I like to be a slave. I'm a legal citizen. You're a legal idiot. Because you got to be an idiot to want to be a citizen. Because a citizen is a subject and a subject is a slave. It's as simple, bloody well as that. You don't have to deal with the whole thing. It's that simple. It's not complicated. Not complicated at all. But we've been fed a lie and we believed a lie, and now we got to lose the lie, which is difficult for people. Now, I got a note last night from Mama D, I think it was, regarding, and I think she might have dropped the F-bomb when she sent that too, and I've never seen her do that before. She's some ticked off, rightfully so. Now, it's a story about the carbon tax that they want to hammer on us here. Now, apparently the plan is that we're going to have a carbon tax, and then they're going to add the HST, which is this, whatever, I don't even know what the HST stands for. It's a tax anyways. It's a tax on everything, of 13%. And people are going, whoa. You're going to make a tax called the carbon tax, and then you're going to add a 13% tax to the tax. And people were getting a little freaky about that. But you got to understand how the legal government operates, okay? Because the whole idea is that they're a deceptive group of people. How do you justify taxing a tax? Well, I'll tell you how. All I got to do is think like a politician or a lawyer for a few minutes. All I got to do is think of some son of a bitch that doesn't give a good damn about my fellow man. And I'll tell you exactly how they justify it. You just got to think like them for a minute. People are whining and complaining. How can you put it? How the hell can you tax a tax? It's pretty simple, actually. Because you see, the HST tax is on services, on labor. Okay? So if I come put a new door in your house or something, we bought the door, which you pay 13% tax on. I put the door in, I have to charge you 13% tax on my labor, my service. Okay? So if you look at it from the lawyer's standpoint and the government standpoint, who's always looking for revenue streams, how do you justify that? Well, what is a carbon tax? Huh? What is a carbon tax? A carbon tax is a collection of money in order to service the earth. So it's a service. The carbon tax is not really a tax, it's a service to Mother Earth. Because they're trying to save Mother Earth from us. So it's a service. Services are taxable. Therefore, the carbon tax is a service, not really a tax. They call it a tax on carbon. But this is how they're going to spin it out. It's a service, and service gets taxed. But I'm glad they did it because, people are really getting bent out of shape over this, you see, because as I said years ago when I'd read the thing about Rockefeller saying, our window of opportunity has already begun to close. That means they got to move faster, harder, and really start to push on people. And people don't notice anything unless it personally affects them. So many things now are personally affecting them. Their water bills, their hydro bills, their tax bills. Now they're going to have a carbon tax with a tax attached to the tax, which they're going to spin off as a service, of course. This is about the emptying of the pockets of the so-called middle class. This is the gutting out of the middle class. Okay? You've been able to look away from someone that's poor or somebody living on the street with the excuse to yourself, oh, they must have screwed up, they must have done something wrong because they wouldn't have to live like that if they didn't deserve it somehow. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Middle Class, you are about to get kicked to the curb. The question is, have you got the capacity to deal with the reality that's staring you in the face, or are you just going to capitulate and lay down like a dog, like a beaten freaking dog? We almost got to get rabid at this point. Anyways, I just put this in there last night. This is how much of a kick in the teeth this is, and most people don't want to know about it. So the Ontario carbon tax plus the HST 13% equals what? It equals UN Agenda 21 and who? Maurice Strong. Who said, what if a small group of world leaders were to conclude that the principal risk to the earth comes from the actions of what? The rich countries, the West. And if the world is to survive, those rich countries would have to sign an agreement reducing their impact on the environment. Okay? Those rich countries would have to sign an agreement reducing their impact on the environment. And what has our countries been doing for like next to ever? They've been signing agreements and treaties and letters of intent with the United Nations to reduce their impact on the environment. But then the question is, will they do it? Will those rich countries do it? The group's conclusion, now this would be, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the bankers and so on and so on and so on and so on. That's the group. Call them the Club of Rome, call them, all these different groups they've got set up. So the group's conclusion is no. So they come to the conclusion, this group comes to the conclusion that the rich countries won't do it. They won't change. So, in order to save the planet, this group decides isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse. Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? Maurice Strong, interview 1992. Now, Bob Rae, who is the son of Saul Ray, who is all tangled up with Krejci, who's tangled up with Power Corp, which are all over in China, with the Rothschilds and the rest of them hoodlums who moved all your jobs overseas. Bob Rae, NDP leader and the Premier of the province of Ontario in 1992, This is what Morris Strong said in an interview in 1992. Isn't the only responsibility to bring that about, to destroy the industrialized civilizations. And he said that in 1992. Bob Ray, the godson of Morris Strong, appointed Morris Strong in 1992 as the chairman and CEO of Ontario Hydro, the biggest. In 1992, Ontario Hydro was the biggest self-contained, regulated, run, owned by the public electric utility on the planet. Makes it a good target. So Morris Strong says it's got to collapse. Bob Ray appoints Morris Strong, who just happens to be, Morris Strong is the godfather of Bob Ray. And Morris Strong was the chairman or whatever he was for Power Corp. He's the guy that trained Paul Martin. I mean, these guys. It's like it's the old compact. Now it's a global compact. Anyways, as chairman, he appointed Morris Strong in 1992 as chairman and CEO of Ontario Hydro. That's when the real collapse of Ontario and the rest of this nation began. Now, Enron was a big player in all of this stuff as well, stateside and here. So the collapse of Ontario, the rest of this nation, and the West has been accelerating since. And it is time the good people of these lands engage in some serious pushback. Because no politician or party represents the people. They can't, as they take an oath to serve the Queen, the Crown, the corporation. And probably the saddest fact of the whole thing is that the media is fully aware of this UN globalist corporate scan taking place, but they ain't telling you about it. So who's going to fix this mess? A politician? In your dreams. Who's going to fix this mess? Who's going to put the brakes on this nonsense? You. You are. Because that's all there is you. That's it. Now, the beauty of it is there's a lot more of you than there are them. So who's got the actual power? You, not them. As long as we continue to wallow around in this stupid, fictional, legal system and act as slaves and surety, we're going to continue to go downhill. And the only reason that we would want to be legal citizens is because we feel comfortable being slaves. We feel comfortable to being abused. We feel comfortable having our pockets picked. We feel comfortable paying debts that we weren't responsible for creating. Now, if we're happy with all of these things, then sit back and watch the television set. The next time you see somebody that's homeless, a homeless vet, or just someone homeless, or someone that's not getting proper medical attention, or somebody's been run out of their home, don't look at them like they must have done something wrong or the government should do something better for these people. You look at that man or that woman and understand you're looking at your future. How many of these vets that went to war, supposed war, supposedly on behalf of the country and to maintain the country and the citizens' freedom, how many of these vets are living under bridges with an arm or a leg missing, or they've been shell-shocked? How many of these people have been destroyed? Do you see any remorse coming out of the so-called leaders that coerce these people into going to these so-called wars? Of course you don't. It's just accounting. Okay? Assets, liabilities. Money in, money out. That's all the legal system is. It has no capacity whatsoever to deal in a moral manner with a man or a woman. No capacity whatsoever. Everything legal is art, which is made up in the mind, which doesn't exist. Okay? It ain't real. So we're going to straighten out our act somehow here. We're going to have to come to terms with this. And we're going to have to get up. And we have to take back. We're going to have to push them back, and then we're going to have to take it back. Or we could bypass the pushback and just go take it back. But we're going to have to get it back. We're going to have to reclaim our rightful status as men and women. We're going to have to reclaim our freedom as men and women, not citizens. We're going to have to reclaim the status that our Creator gave us, intended us to live by and live under. We're supposed to live by His word. And His word being law. I mean, look at the decadence around you. I mean, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. I mean, I'm still shook over that. I'm still shook over that trans kids purple rainbow foundation. Now, I was talking to my brother-in-law about that the other day, and he said that he actually seen a commercial for it on TV. This little 11-year-old kid called Jazz, who they've been MK altering, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, since the kid was 5, has now turned the kid into a media star with its own show, teaching other little kids that if you're a girl, you might want to be a boy, and if you're a boy, you might want to be a girl, and I'm Jazz, and I'm here to tell you how to get it done. Like it's normal. It ain't normal. Her parents ought to be, I don't know, man, it just freaks me out. It just freaks me out. Transgender washrooms, Black Lives Matter, Occupy, Idle No More. This shit just keeps coming and coming and coming. And it's just the same damn template with a different name on it and a different agitated group attached to it. So it's not a lot unlike Saul Alinsky's nonsense of the, 24 rules for radicals or whatever. I can't remember how many rules there were. I think it was something like 24. Okay, you go in and you connect to a group of people, you get your leaders in there, you get them agitated, you tell them why their lives suck, you get them to stand up, but the people don't even know what the hell they're following. It's just to stir up the pot, create chaos, get the people fighting among themselves. That we got to stop. We have definitely got to stop that. And the sad part, the thing I think is bothering me more than anything right now, and I never really got into the Jews too much. I mean, I remember even when I was a little kid, somebody would buy a car and it wouldn't work right or something, and, they would say, well, I guess you got Jewed, right? Did you buy that car from that little Jew down the street, you fool? But when I start looking at the comparison and the similarities between Judaism and Islam, it freaks me out. It's like they're a tag team. When you look at this and you start looking at it, I've had people say that, Islam was a creation of the Catholic Church or the Vatican. Now I know that the Vatican uses the Jews to their advantage. It's all a team effort. And then we know that the Catholic religion is an absolutely phony, false idol religion or church. We know that all the churches are corporate churches, and therefore they are tied to Rome or the Vatican, so that makes all the churches. I don't care if you're a Baptist or Pentecostal, United Church Minister, or Anglican. You are, in fact, a member of the Catholic Church. And that ain't hard to verify. All you got to do is sit back and look at it. And we know the Catholic Church and we know the Vatican is the epitome of evil. And now we have the Jews and the Islamic movement, especially the Islamic movement. And that's an army. And its intent is to overrun your nation and replace, well, they can't replace your law because you ain't got any law. They already took that away from you. But to replace what you got with Sharia law, which is the same as the Jewish law, really. If you ain't a Jew, then you don't deserve to live. If a Jew is eating dinner sitting across the table from a goy, the Jew is to consider himself having dinner with a dog, because they don't recognize you as men and women, just like the legal system doesn't it doesn't recognize a man or a woman. And where did the legal system come from? Well, go look for the Jews. But if you study the similarities between Islamic and the Jews and Talmudic law and Sharia law, I think you're going to find some very, very, very tight similarities here. And it was the Jews that brought on multiculturalism. So, and again, I don't have anything against any man, woman, child in particular. But the leadership, I got a problem with. And we, the people, need to start building leadership in our lands. We must become the leaders of our lands. Not these dick-ass politicians, lawyers. Anyways, I hear music. We're out of here.
They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one thinks good. Trees laugh to your face, fight.